Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Kevin, and today I'm going to show you like a presentation on acting and what I think a good actor can do. Let me just get my presentation up. Okay, here you go. Start from the top. Okay. So I'm gonna answer this one question first, like what is acting? Because a lot of people have different definitions, but normally the way I personally defined it is acting is the art of the performance. Actors portray characters and tell stories using dialogues, body language, and facial expressions. Normally, in my opinion, acting is one of the most important roles when it comes to film or as like what you guys are doing, music, theaters. So what an actor does, they perform like a selected role for a movie, a play, musical, usually as a lead, supporting role, extra, ensemble, and understudies. If you don't know what an ensemble or understudy is, ensemble is somebody like usually who plays in the background. For example, in movies, usually they have background characters. So like the movie just doesn't focus on the lead. They also have real world um, things happening in the background. And understudy usually is if a lead actor or supporting role gets sick, you know, the understudy is usually prepared um, to take over that role. An actor connects to the audience using their tone of voice, body language, and facial expressions. For example, if like, you know, when let's say a lead, in a movie graduates high school, usually they show excitement or like, hey, oh my God, I'm graduating high school. Um, that's kind of the gist of it. Um, but an actor usually uses their creativity to kind of portray that excitement. I'm gonna get to that in a little bit. Um, 1 second. Um, so what is good acting? Because I know nobody wants to be a mediocre actor or like a bad actor. So these are kind of like the tips that I've kind of written down for good acting. Like I said, creativity. Um, like for acting, there's gonna you want to have your own ideas. Um, because when you copy somebody else's, it doesn't it won't really hit the same as when you're doing it like on your own, if that makes sense. Usually, for me, when I am acting in like, for example, a musical, um, I don't copy from somebody else's work. Um, if you want to make it human, I come up with my own ideas. Um, I think about like, I think about what this character would do in that certain moment, or in that certain time, and I show my own. Um, Another thing I put out in there is charisma. Um, Usually when an actor is not putting in um energy into the play, it falls flat. Um, People get bored easily. But when you show your own, charisma, it gets the people engaged. It gets the audience engaged. Um, but another note I put in there is understanding human behavior. For example, like what I just said earlier, um, I'll put another example. Like, for example, if you're crying and if there's like a sad scene, like for example, your dog is dying or one of your family members dying, um, understanding human behavior would mean like someone could cry or like someone could have, maybe a bit of a panic attack. I don't know. Um, that's why you have to have your own creativity um to kind of figure out what your character could do in that moment. Um, Confidence is a big one, you know, if you get a little shaky on stage or you start to sweat a bit, the audience can tell. The audience can tell if you're being frightened a bit. And like I said, putting your energy into that character you're playing will help establish a great character to the audience. So there's a huge difference between acting on screen and on the stage. Like for example, when you're acting on screen, usually um with the lines memorized, of course, you get notes like um if the director doesn't like a take. While if you're on stage, there's not a lot of you can't really do much. Whatever has happened live, you can't really do a do-over. So it's really important to really get a grasp on the character, to understand the character that you're playing, um, before you get out there and start performing on stage. Um, and on stage, it's a bigger audience than the film, of course, because on film you're just watching it on your TV or you're watching it, in the theaters. But on stage, there's a bigger audience, so you have to exaggerate your emotions a little bit. And what I mean by that is, you know, usually when you're on stage, you kind of have to like project your voice or like use a little bit more of your body movement so the people on in the audience knows what exactly is happening. Um, Acting on screen can be a little bit more subtle just because if you do if you exaggerate on the screen, people can tell and it gets a little bit awkward. Um, yeah. So there's different types of acting. There's many um what's the word? There's many types of actings to help you get into that. I'll just get into it. Improvisational acting. I'm so sorry, I can't really speak right now. Improv for short. It's a form of live theater in which all aspects of the performance are made up on the spot. I'll put an example that I've been in a play. I think it was last year, for annual PCN. If you don't know what PCN is, basically it's a Filipino cultural night, um, held by the students, basically showcasing like Filipino culture. Um, and before the beginning of a scene that had to do with cultural dance, I'm not really remembering on the top of my head what that dance was, but essentially uh, one of the two leads was needed after that was needed after the dance that they were a part of. Um, so in total there was four, and when they got two when the two leads got on stage, they didn't really know what to do, so they had to improvise um the scene, but it has to make sense so it can so you can really get the flow of the story, if that makes sense. Um, the biggest way to get it going when you're doing improv is usually saying yes, because if you say no, it kind of slows down the story a bit, and it doesn't give the actors a lot of options. And be aware of what is going on in the scene, because if um if you don't know what is going on, it kind of falls flat and the story doesn't really make a lot of sense. Second, we have method acting. Method acting trains actors to inhabit the physique of a character, sometimes for long periods, to facilitate realistic behavior under imaginary circumstances. Basically, what it means is like you have to put like real life things into that performance. So, for example, Robert De Niro in the famous movie Taxi Driver had to work as a real life taxi, picking passengers up in New York. Leonardo DiCaprio is actually a vegetarian, but he ate raw bison, slept in animal carcass, and withstood freezing temperatures when shooting The Revenant. And another famous actor, Heath Ledger, who played the Joker in The Dark Knight, he really had to get into that crazy state of mind to get into that role. So for an entire month, he had to lock himself in, and he had to practice like um, a sinister laughter. Um, and it's a really good way of getting to know the character that you were playing. For example, in the PCN that I was in with Zeke, I had to play a mother, or sorry, I had to play a grandmother who didn't approve of her um granddaughter's relationship. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't like practicing being hateful to people, but I did for a little while try to you know get to know my grandmother a little bit, just so I can add on, um you know so I could just add on into my character and make it as believable. So I'm gonna show you a little bit of a clip that it's an example of good acting. Um, let me just start it right.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
It's the police, ma'am. Your son's been hit by a drunk driver. He's dead.
Oh, no, no, you cannot joke about that.
Yeah, that's not funny, Arthur. That's not the kind of humor we do on this show.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. It's just, it's been a rough few weeks, Murray. Ever since I killed those 3 Wall Street guys.
Okay, I'm waiting for the punchline.
There's no punchline. It's not a joke.
You're serious, aren't you? You're telling us you killed those 3 young men on the subway?
Mm-hmm.
And why should we believe you?
I got nothing left to lose. Nothing can hurt me anymore. My life is nothing but a comedy.
Hindi, ala pa lang admission pa yun. Wala pang slot ng admission.
And I'm tired of pretending it's not. Comedy is subjective, Murray. Isn't that what they say? All of you, the system that knows so much, you decide what's right or wrong the same way that you decide what's funny or not.
Well, okay, I think I might understand that you did this to start a movement, to become a symbol.
Come on, Murray. They couldn't carry it to save their lives. Oh, why is everybody so upset about these guys? If it was me dying on the sidewalk, you'd walk right over me. I pass you every day and you don't notice me. But these guys, what, because Thomas Wayne cried about them on TV?
You have a problem with Thomas Wayne?
Yes, I do. Have you seen what it's like out there, Murray? Do you ever actually leave the studio? Everybody just yells and screams at each other. Nobody's civil anymore. Nobody thinks what it's like to be the other guy. You think men like Thomas Wayne ever think what it's like to be someone like me? To be somebody but themselves? They don't. They think that we'll just sit there and take it like good little boys, that we won't werewolf and go wild.
You finished? I mean, there's so much self-pity, Arthur. You sound like you're making excuses for killing those young men. Not everybody, and I'll tell you this, not everyone is awful.
But you're awful.
Me? I'm awful? Oh yeah, how am I awful?
Inviting me on the show. You just wanted to make fun of me. You're just like the rest of them.
You don't know the first thing about me, pal. Look what happened because of what you did, what it led to. There were riots out there. 2 policemen are in critical condition. You're laughing. You're laughing. Someone was killed today because of what you did.
I know.
Okay, I'm gonna stop it right there because it does get a little bit graphic. But if you want to like watch more,
Knock,
oh,
knock.
sorry. If you do want to watch more, it's definitely on YouTube, so you guys can check it out. But if you, I'm trying to get out of this. 1 second, sorry guys. One sec. Let me just. Sorry, I'm having a little bit of technical difficulties. 1 second.
Knock.
Okay, there you go. Sorry, I could not get out of the screen for the life of me. But like if you guys noticed what I said earlier, if you don't know what this movie, basically it's the Joker. And this is kind of like the origin story. He did kill 3 men on the bus. But if you couldn't tell from his character, he was a little bit afraid on going on the air. So he was kind of a little bit. And also that's why it's really important for you to get to know the character a little bit more before getting on the set, just so you can create your own facial expressions, body expressions. Because if you could tell, you could really see in his eyes that he really hated Murray.
Oop.
Knock, knock.
Oh, sorry, so sorry. Okay. I'm gonna show you a video, kind of, showing you what bad acting looks like. If I could just.
I did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
Oh, hey, Johnny, what's up?
I have a problem with Lisa. She said that I hit her.
What? Well, did you?
No, it's not true. Don't even ask. What's new with you?
Well, I'm just sitting up here thinking, you know. I got a question for you.
Yeah.
You think girls like to cheat like guys do?
What makes you say that?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm just thinking.
I don't have to worry about that because Lisa's loyal to me.
Yeah, man, you never know. People are very strange these days. I used to know a girl. She had a dozen guys. One of them found out about it, beat her up so bad she ended up in a hospital on Guerrero Street.
What a story, Mark.
Yeah, you can say that again.
So the reason why like this is like an example of bad acting is because the actor doesn't know the story well. Like if you could tell that he was kind of laughing at a horrible experience that happened. And he wasn't really showing any facial expressions. Yeah, this was like really known for being like one of the worst movies because the actors didn't really have any creativity to the work.
I did not hit her. It's not true.
Lastly, I want to finish this presentation by saying a look is worth 1,000 words. I can't express it enough that facial expressions really tell a lot in the character, and that's really helped me with getting getting the leads or like supporting roles in my career, at least, because you have to be really passionate with the character, and showing facial expressions really shows how dedicated you are.
Thank you, Kevin, for that wonderful and insightful presentation. Can we give him a virtual clap, please? Or could you put in a reaction? Thank you. And we would be clapping for you if we were doing this in person. Maybe before we move on to the next speaker, can we address this quick question from the chat?
Yeah, of course.
So I believe this is Lindsay. She asked, how do you handle performance anxiety or nerves before a live performance or while on set?
Oh, how do I usually handle it? Well, usually, and I'm sure Zeke is going to tell you as a teacher, really studying those lines can kind of get rid of that anxiety, because if you know what you're capable of, if you know like the work well, kind of loses the ease a little bit off. Another thing I like to do is kind of like shake all the nerves like before the show. There's a lot of things to um to do, but that from the top of my head, that's um what I'm thinking of right now.
All right. Did that answer your question, Lindsay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. So later you'll have more time with Kevin in the breakout room. You can ask him all the questions that you want to ask within the time limit given. And now we will proceed to our next speaker, Ma'am Riza. Can we introduce our next speaker? Thank you.
Yes, of course. Again, it is my honor. No? So growing up, Patricia Sumang has been interested in the performing arts. She grew up singing in a choir, playing instruments and listening to the soundtracks of her favorite musicals and shows. She began her undergraduate studies at Skyline College, where she was the executive producer and actor of Ang Kulay ng Pag-ibig and the president of Philippines Student Union. She transferred UC Irvine to continue pursuing a degree in psychological science with a minor in public health, where she continued to be involved in the Filipinx community. She is a part of UC Irvine's Kababayan Club, and she was a cast member for PACN 43, Tahanan, and will once again be involved in this year's upcoming production, PACN 44. So let's give it a round of applause to Miss Patricia Suma.
Hello everyone, I'm really happy to be here. I'm gonna just go ahead and share my screen. Okay, 1 second. Can everyone see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, and you can hear me too? Cool.
Loud and clear.
Yay, cool. So first I'll begin with talking about my experience producing for Skyline College's PCN, but later on I will mention some of the other work I've done. If you have any questions about that, you can ask me at the end or during our breakout session. Okay, so let's get started. So just to give an overview of what we're going to talk about, I'll introduce myself a little bit, say what the role of the executive producer does, my experience at Skyline College, some challenges we face as a team, and then some of my biggest takeaways working that production 2 years ago. And then some contact information in case you want to continue discussing at a later time. Okay, so this is me. Some facts about me. I was born and raised in San Francisco, but currently I live in Southern California in Irvine. Irvine is about 1 hour away from Los Angeles. and I'm currently in my 4th year studying for psychology with a minor in public health, and I'll be graduating in June. On the left, here's my family. A lot of these folks here are on my mom's side. My mom is the second to youngest of 11. Her family's from Salaan, Pangasinan. And then here's my dad. He's the eldest of 3. He's from Muntinlupa in Manila. And then here's my older sister and her boyfriend, and there's me. This is a picture of when I was a student at Skyline College with some other FSC folks. We were just in line waiting to cross the stage. These are the pictures on the right are pictures from my time at UC Irvine. Over here is a picture with me and some members of my dance team. And then over here to the top corner on the right, this was the day before our performance. And someone mentioned earlier, what do you do before a performance when you're nervous? This day, I was super, super nervous because we were about to do a breaking dance performance. And me, I am not very strong. I was really worried that I was going to mess up and fall on the ground. But something that I do is I try to go into power poses, like Kevin was saying earlier, making sure that I practice a lot. So I can tell myself that I'm very much capable of giving a good performance. And most of all, just being present, because once you're up there performing, that moment is never going to happen again. So just really doing your best to be present, being present with your cast members and all those around you, and especially the audience too, for showing up and supporting you for that moment. And then right here, here's another picture of a performance, but this was for work. I was an orientation leader for UCI, and we're over here welcoming the upcoming freshmen and transfer students. So yeah, this is just a little selfie with me and my co-worker with everyone. Cool. So general responsibilities of an executive producer, I think to put it very shortly in a nutshell, it's working with people and being able to keep the production moving forward, because we all know that life happens and a lot of things can get in the way of the progress. But the executive producer's job is ensuring that things can continue moving forward while being able to accommodate your team. So first, I'd like to highlight logistics. So logistics would be like project management. This can be anything from scheduling meetings, rehearsal times, creating deadlines to meet and goals for the team, budget approval, managing marketing campaigns, doing paperwork, ensuring that like the production has all the props needed to create the performance, financial things, and really anything related that is involved behind the scenes is what the executive producer would do. And then collaboration, you will be working with all sorts of people with different communication styles, different acting styles. It's important that the executive producer really get to know who they're working with, and the needs, the strengths of all their team and their areas of improvement as well. And let's see. And then something that I learned while being part of the Skyline College PCN is just continuing to remind ourselves that we were all students during the production. We all had our own schedules. I know a lot of the cast members had a job, maybe even 2 jobs commuting. So we all had our own responsibilities, and being able to like understand where everyone else is coming from as well, and just being able to like work through all our challenges together. And then the third point is decision making. So being able to adapt and think about solutions on the spot, or even being able to predict possible challenges that you may face. So just being like like foreshadowing things so that you can potentially like avoid them. But overall, we all know that that's not completely unavoidable. So just knowing like who you can ask for help, and and just being able to create those solutions. Let's see. Oh, and one example of that would be from our play was we didn't have a place to practice in. So oftentimes we had to ask the cast members if they had a place we could use. For example, one of our cast members was a coach at a middle school, and because he had that space available to us, he was able to allow us to have access to the gym and use their stage so that we can practice what it was like to act on a gym. When we didn't have that, we found a nearby park and we learned our bachata piece over there. So it's really just being flexible, being adaptable. Okay. So my experience being part of Skyline College's Filipinx Cultural Night. To give you some context, I joined in January and our performance was in April. And so that gave us 4 months to create a whole production. And official times that we met was twice a week for 1 hour and 30 minutes, if I'm remembering correctly, on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I know a lot of you have done performances before, and you know that creating a production is hours and hours of rehearsal time and hours doing your own prep work away from the time that you officially meet. And then we also had no budget at the time because we were just coming from COVID. So this was the first time we were going to have an in-person PCN. So for a lot of us here, it was our very first time doing that and our very first time being on campus. So we didn't really know or have experience using the stage. And then on top of that, our class was about 10 who regularly met. And then we also had some volunteers, some friends of friends, some staff members from Skyline College who volunteered their time to help us create this magic. And a lot of the work that we did was on a volunteer basis because, again, we didn't have money. So we were just very thankful for all the opportunities and all the time that everyone put in. So really, our PCN was built by the community. Yeah, so over here I put the cast. They did everything from logistics, behind the scenes, acting, etc. In some other productions, usually you have one role, like one person has one role, one person's an actor, another person's a director, another person's like doing lights. But for us, we had to do everything. And we also didn't have enough time. I mean, no, we had enough time because we made magic happen, but as you can see, we did run into a lot of challenges. And then, so to build on, so some of our biggest challenges was finding a time when everyone could be in attendance, because it's important that everyone knows what's going on so that we could all be on the same page, trying to find additional rehearsals and meeting times. And then on top of that, since everyone is kind of doing everything, finding like a time when we can balance the rehearsal and physical planning. So oftentimes we would have late night practices on Zoom, on campus. I remember some nights we stayed on campus till like 11 p.m. just trying to learn how to do bachata and like master our lines. And then really utilizing the skills of all our cast members. For example, one of our cast members, he had some experience doing social dance. So we asked him if he could choreograph the piece. And it was his very first time doing it, but it turned out really great. We also had parents who volunteered to create props and to buy us snacks and all of that. And then we also had some friends who came in to help do our pictures that we could post on Instagram. And then, yeah, over here, with the budgeting, able to contact community partners such as Balanga Dance Company. They help provide all the costumes free of cost. a picture over here on the right. This is them. They helped teach us. It turned out really well. And then just reaching out to different people to help like fill in any of the holes that we needed. Cool. And then I'd say my biggest takeaways from doing PCN is how important it is to establish deadlines in the beginning. Just because there's like with so much going on, like you may forget to do something. So it's always good to have meetings where you all collectively talk about what needs to be done and then see your progress on that. And that goes hand in hand with having a plan. So my recommendation, if I were to do another production, is to have goals and focus for each meeting. Don't meet just to meet. And for example, those goals could be making sure that everyone has their lines memorized. Maybe you could have some tests or like fun games, like to ensure that everyone has their lines memorized. Making sure that you schedule additional practice times ahead of time so that people can call off work and make sure that they have time to do that. And I find that structure helps in the long run with trying to stay on task. And then the third part was honestly my favorite part, and one of my biggest lessons was because I believe our connection as a team was so strong and was one of the biggest reasons why our production has been one of my favorites. Like even out of all the musicals and all the shows, the play that Zeke and Emmy wrote is still hands down one of my favorite, because of just like how everyone was able to put their own twists and creative like sprinkles into the production, and how much trust that we had with each other too. So we did an amazing job with building group rapport. So not only did I learn things of like how to get things done, but also how to connect with people, how to connect with my team, and how to connect with the audience as well. And yeah, thank you. This is my email if anyone wants to ask me any more questions. I have my Instagram here, but please introduce yourself when you do reach out to me, just so I know how we got connected. And if you do want to follow me on Instagram, just make sure you send me a little text saying, "Hi, I remember you from this," just so I know to hit that accept button. Yeah. But if you have any questions, I can answer them for sure now if we have time, or later as well. And Zeke, do you think I should show some of the UCI slides or no?
I think that'd be helpful.
This is good? Okay.
No, I mean, you can just go show your slides.
Okay, cool. Just for funsies, I made a slide of what I did for UC Irvine, and like just so you could see like different types of Filipinx cultural nights that we have. So I was part of UC Irvine's Filipinx American Cultural Night. It's their version of PCN. If you don't know what PCN is, basically different schools all across the US create a night where that centers around a script, and then we have plays, performances like dancing, sprinkled in there too. For UCI's Filipinx American Culture Night, they had until summer to April to plan out their production. It was hosted by their Kababayan, and our cast consisted of 200 plus members. That honestly still blows me away. And then we had 30 board members who are in charge of different suites. So we had logistical suites, people in charge of our cultural attire, props, commercials, our money, and then we had our performance suites, which consisted of our traditional dance, choir, skit, and more. And then we also had structured practice multiple days in a week. For example, from Mondays to Wednesdays, depending on which suite you were a part of, you would attend practice from 4 to 9 p.m., but only go to the ones that you were involved in. And then we also had Saturday practice from I think 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. But it was really fun. I have the link here in case anyone wants to view it and see what it's like. Yeah. And if you look at the pictures, I'm right here on the right, top right. And then on the bottom left corner, this is choir. I think this is only about half of our choir because we took this during the production, so people were probably getting ready to go on stage or we're on stage. Yeah. Oh, and I see a question. Also, thank you for the compliment on the chat. Your question is, how do you balance staying true to character's essence while also bringing your unique interpretation and creativity to the role? That's a really Z, thank you. You all are so sweet. Let's say true to character's essence. Let's see. I think building off of what Kevin said earlier, like really trying to empathize and understand where your character is coming from. From my experience with acting, I did a lot of research, like because I was the contravida in mine. I was like saying bad words. I was yelling at people, and I don't have any experience really fighting anyone. So what I did for my interpretation, I did what is something that I would never say? Like what are some body language that I would never do? So those are things that I did. Because the character was really the opposite of me. And then some other things I did, I watched Daniela. I forgot which teleserie she's from, but I watched a lot of the Tagalog teleseries of them yelling at each other, and try to see how that like aligned. But if Kevin and Zeke have anything to add to, feel free to.
So maybe we'll entertain just this one other question from George, but do you have any input with regard to the previous question, Kevin?
No, I think she got it. She got it good.
Okay, so George from JRI, so this is an 11th grader, he has a question. So George, would you like to raise your question yourself? Can you unmic? Sorry, can you unmute and ask your question?
Hello. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Good morning, Ma'am Patricia. I have a question. Sometimes, even if you've memorized the lines and know the character, we can't help but feel frightened. And because of that, our minds tend to get clouded. So my question is, how do you deal with that?
I'm very big. Oh, Kevin, do you want to go for it?
Oh, I can add on to that. It's okay. I can add on to whatever. Okay.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I'd say definitely engaging in a mindfulness techniques. There are a lot of breathing and meditative techniques that you can find online if you Google. Sometimes there's this thing called the square technique where you breathe in for 4 seconds and then breathe out. So really focusing on your breath, because your breath can really influence your physiological senses. Like when you focus on inhaling like through your stomach and taking deep breaths, that can help lower your heart rate and then help you be in a more calm, collected state. Another thing you can do is maybe go to a quiet place, like maybe even the bathroom, and just take that time to talk to yourself and give yourself affirmations. Other things too that you can do beforehand, making sure that you get enough sleep, that you're drinking water, and that you're eating healthy food. Yeah, that's what I'd say.
Can I add on to that, Zeke?
Sure.
Okay, cool. Like what Patricia said, keeping a really good like mental health would be really important. Just because if you like go out there with all your thoughts It could get a little scary, like at first, with my first performances. Um, I had the same thoughts, like I was really like, you know, it was really scary, like um trying to be a believable character. But another thing I will add is when it comes to performing in front of an audience, um, just know that they're just, people. If you like, for example, mess up and you really in the back of your mind, you're like, oh man, like this is really unfortunate. Like um, this could really affect the show. The audience actually doesn't know the story. If you ever think that you messed up, you could really like play off of that. And that's why I say you gotta have like good creativity. Because if you think that you mess up, you could really, make a decision on to fix that error that you made. Um, so it's really about, trying to be confident in that role. Hopefully that answered your question.
And just one more quick thing. I definitely, when I was performing the second night, the reactions of the audience, they were making me laugh so much. I had trouble staying into character. So something I did, I was kind of just playing off of that, to try to stay in a collected state. Um, my cast members helped me too. Like I just turned around and like I hid behind one of my cast members while I quickly like tried to like breathe out all the like jitters I was feeling. But yeah, just trying to be creative and improvise on the spot helps a lot too.
Thank you so much, Patricia and Kevin. We're so happy to see questions starting to trickle in, but we will be addressing them later in the open forum after the breakout rooms. So for now, I guess I will move on to my part, which is the directing part. I don't know, do you still want to hear from me? Everyone here? Yeah.
Yes, I want to hear from you.
Oh, because these are my students, so they're with me every day, and then the others are my colleagues. So, I'm sure they're pretty sick of my face already, but okay. So I'll do my best. Let's see. So this was also sort of the last minute thing that I put together, just based on everything that I can remember. So Patricia and Kevin can fill in the gaps for me, hopefully, so you guys can help me out. Can everybody hear me well? Can you see my presentation well? Please affirm that before
Yes, sir.
I move on. Okay. Yeah. So maybe like it's weird for Patty and Kevin to hear people addressing me with sir. That's just the thing here in the Philippines. So hey, this is I'm directing a play for the first time, because a lot of you might be directing a play for the first time, or like me for my PCN, it wasn't really my first time directing a play. I did play, act, and perform in smaller productions before, and big productions as well, especially the first run of Teatro Rizalian here at JRI. The play was called Rizal is My President. And I think to date that was our biggest production, because we took that show on tour. So we did the first show here in Orani, and then we did a second show in Pasay, and then we did a third show in Cavite, and that was just one of the highlights, if not the main highlight of my high school career. And from then on, I've just been performing everywhere. I mainly sing at church, but I also have played short stints, believe it or not, on TV and radio. And then when I went to California, I co-wrote this play with Emmy, and I've been given the honor to direct it come the spring of 2022. So anyway, here's my story on directing a play for the first time. I hope you learn something And feel free to shoot your questions in the chat whenever you like. Okay, so here's a little outline of my presentation. So I'll begin with my PCN story. I actually have a diary of what happened to me in the US during my Fulbright stint, and my PCN adventures really are some of the main highlights. So I wrote about that in detail, and I would like to share those experiences with y'all. And then some basic responsibilities of a stage play director in a more traditional aspect, and suggestions for effectual directing. So focus on the word effectual. I didn't use the word effective, but instead effectual, and I'll explain why that is later. How to help your director, because your director is only one person and carrying a lot of weight. So, you know, everyone, and especially your director, could use a bit of help. And just some gleanings, takeaways from directing my PCN Filipino Cultural Night at Skyline College in San Bruno, California, which Patricia and Kevin already spoke about earlier. Now, so this is my PCN story. Just allow me to read from my diary. And for you from the Philippines, just imagine this is MMK, and then I'm starting this off with Dear Charo. Okay, so Skyline College's annual PCN had not been seen on stage for 3 years. Patricia talked about this. That's because of the pandemic. And so we were so pressured, and we just really wanted to give a great show because it's the return of PCN on stage. And so we were stressed out and excited, you know, mixed emotions. So this picture that I'm showing you is at San Bruno Park. This is one of our last bands. This is one of our first in-person rehearsals, because prior to this, we've been rehearsing via Zoom. So the first week of May is we call that Hell Week, because that's the show week. But, you know, Ms. Liza, my supervisor, wanted to make things lighter for everybody. So we insisted on calling it Love Week instead, you know, to mitigate the pressure. Okay, so I think this was after the dress rehearsal, if not after the first show. So let me just read what I wrote. Despite my frustration, because the cast was not able to completely assemble for rehearsals the prior week. So Patricia and Kevin, they know this very well. I was relieved to see everyone present. I think this was the dress rehearsal. And the thing is, despite our deficiencies, our issues, because these are different people who they're very passionate at what they do. But then they have to work, they have school, they have responsibilities at home. So we couldn't really assemble completely in the beginning stages of, you know, putting the play together. But towards the end, everybody really showed up, despite, you know, getting COVID scares and stuff. Everybody really committed, especially towards the end, just to make this a great show. And I'm really grateful for that. Okay, so this was our dress rehearsal. I was in the booth, and this was everyone practicing their dance, and also I believe their blockings. Okay, and then we also, if you can read what's written on the slides, if the letters are not too small, we had 2 last-minute additions, like literally the day before the play. We had Jaime and Kayleani. They were a couple at a time, and then instantly they signed on to be our lighting and sound and tech personnel. And then they just met the theater director, Josh, I think an hour before dress rehearsals, and then just walked them through the art of, you know, how to operate the lights and the sound and the microphone. And they just learned everything in under an hour. And yeah, it was amazing how everything came together. So our PCN was really a community effort, and not only like it's just the director, it's just Ms. Liza, or it's just Zeke, or it's just Emmy, but actually no, it was everyone's project. It was everyone's baby. Okay, so we were also happy because Ms. Liza really walked us through a lot of hacks into like managing how to switch sets, you know, because we took a lot of time with that, especially during the first show. But she had us run through a couple of exercises. My favorite is when we, I don't know if you remember, Kevin and Patricia, we formed two lines, and then there was, we had sticks and then we were throwing them to each other, you know, to see how well we are coordinated, like even without talking to each other, if we, you know, if at that point we're already at the same page to feel what each other is feeling. And this, here's the thing, to everyone, in the backstage, you guys are supposed to be silent, especially if you have cast members who are mic'd, you know, because any little noise that can emanate from the backstage will be very distracting to the audience. So you want to minimize the noise, if not be pin drop silent at the backstage. So it's a lot of just nonverbal communication, eye contact. So you have to be really in sync with the people that you're working with. Okay, so here's a photo that if I didn't take this, somebody else did. Oh, I missed the penguin. And the bones of our show were really good. And we obviously lacked preparation in terms of like, we would, I mean, not really lack preparation. I think, you know, what happened for a reason. And we were bouncing back from a worldwide pandemic. So I think we should cut ourselves some slack on that. But, you know, the bones of the show were really good. And I've been telling them that over and over because I really believe in the project. And I asked them, okay, so either two things can happen. Either we give them a so-so show, an okay show, or we give them a great show. And then I was like, what are we gonna give them? And then they're like, we're gonna give them a great show. So yeah, that was one of the defining moments of the PCN journey for me. This was the first show, pictures from the first show. And for the first show, it was actually great because it's a lot of family, friends, you know, people that we know. So it was an uproarious audience because they came out there to support us. But it was actually the second show that was kind of more nerve-wracking for me because our play, so this is the script. Okay, I don't know if you can see it. So the first, during the first act, they were very silent. So we thought we were just boring the heck out of them. But I was surprised that during the intermission, they were actually talking about the story. And as a director and also one of the co-writers of the play, that was such an encouragement and compliment to me because, you know, people are actually interested in the story. They actually want to find out. And then come act two, that's when the audience just, you know, burst out in anger and rage at Patricia for playing Esther, you know, in laughter for how things got resolved. And it was just so beautiful to recount that. So traditionally speaking, here are the responsibilities of a stage play director. So I am citing from my stroke of insight, the American Association of Community Theater. But anyways, just checking in, everyone's still with me so far? You can throw in a yes.
Yes po.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so based on the American Association of Community Theater, the director has the challenging task of bringing together the many complex pieces of a production, the script, the actors, set, costuming, lighting, and sound, music, everything into a unified whole. So what are the basic responsibilities? How would a director do this? One is to interpret the script, obviously. I've just had the privilege of having written my own script and having a very good editor, Ms. Liza, you know. So it was easy for me to interpret the script because I was a part of conceiving it and I kind of know the motivations behind it and the important things that we want to showcase But suppose you're getting a script that you did not write, you really have to invest in reading it, really studying the script, interpreting the story from beginning to end, the main conflicts, how they get resolved, the characters, major and minor, their motivations, what they want, their arc. You really have to pay attention to those things so you can produce a powerful interpretation on stage. Now, if you are writing your own script, I suggest getting an editor, an expert to look at your work and to see if there are loose ends that you can revise, edit, because it's kind of a loosey-goosey situation if you interpret your own play, you know, your ego can get in the way. So it's good to get input from other experts while still holding, you know, your ground, your vision for what you want your play to be. And then after you interpret the script, you have to study the characters because you have to find people to play the characters. You have to cast the production, the actors, you know, basically everybody who's going to help you with producing and coming up with a play. So you will be collaborating as well with designers for set and costumes. It helps if you, as the director, you have sort of a sketch of everything that goes into the play. So for example, before casting, maybe sketch yourself the face or the whole presentation of the character, or maybe you can Google an image, or maybe you're envisioning this character looks like, I don't know, Leonardo DiCaprio, something like that, you know, that you have pictures to work with, and also for the set that you have a floor plan with the top view of the stage, that you're familiar with the venue that you're working with, what the stage looks like, and are there accommodations around the stage? Is it a proscenium? You know, what are you working with? So you got to know that as well. And even for costumes, you know, especially for period pieces, like you have to wear very specific costumes. I think our grade 11 students, they have a more faithful interpretation of the play at hand, which is the Inspector General. And that takes place in early 19th century Europe. So what would they wear? So something to plan ahead for as well, and to really, really think about. And then plan your rehearsals. I don't know why it's plan with. It's plan the rehearsals. And ideally, even before you cast the production, you already have your rehearsals plotted, so you know which people can be available. Or you can find the right people who can be available and who can make themselves available for that, for your rehearsals. I believe we removed one, was he an actor? He wasn't, he was more of a production staff. We had to remove him because he was not showing up because he had other things going on. And, you know, we hoped that he could be more honest and upfront, you know, with us in the beginning before saying yes and committing to the project, because when we were already rehearsing, he was always gone, and we ultimately just had to remove him. So, you know, you want to work with people that can be available and can make themselves available for the project. So also, as a director, you should have a few exercises, tricks up your sleeve, because you're going to have to be the guide of the writers, the guide of the actors during rehearsals. I remember Patricia is as you can tell, she's a very jolly person. She has this very positive personality, and she was playing the villain, a homophobic, despicable creature from the depths of hell. That was the character that Patricia was playing. And how do we turn this sweet girl into someone that we would despise when we watch her? And so I had to kind of like help Patricia internalize. Let me know, Patricia, if I'm accurate. with my details. So I had to sort of like isolate her in a corner, and I'm telling her like, hey, Patricia. Oh, sorry, the character's name was Esther. Hey, Esther, like look her in the eye, and it was like, Esther, no one loves you. Everybody hates you. You've been controlled all your life, and now you want to control everybody. But they're not having that. They want to have their own life, a life that you didn't have, and you hate them for it. So, you know, I was having these little sessions with Patricia before we rehearse, just so she can get into character. Okay. And among other things, I'm a fan of tongue twisters, because in our play, we were speaking 3 languages, Tagalog, Spanish, and English. So we had a lot of vocal exercises, and just basically every exercise we can think of. Sometimes I'm not taking from a rule book. Sometimes I would make something up, you know, right at that moment. So suggestions for effectual directing. I'm just gonna have to speed through this. So I used effectual because effective is like, you know, if you're rehearsing and then you tell your actor to do something and they did that, you're effective because they followed you. But effectual means you're effective to the extent that your vision, your original vision, is what is what your cast is producing because of your directing. So I hope that's making sense. Like, you know, it's one thing to tell an actor to, okay, cry, and then they cried, and then it was so effective, it was so dramatic. But it's another thing to tell them to cry at a certain moment, or, you know, give you some level of sadness or anger or rage, because that's what the part needs, and that's what needs to be conveyed to the audience. Okay, so some suggestions. Number 1, as Patricia said earlier, set your expectations early in terms of what you want the play to look like, your vision for it. And especially when you're interpreting or reimagining a piece, do you want to twist it to become more comedic? Do you want to stay faithful to the original? Or what other, is it going to be a musical? You know, so your cast will expect and can prepare themselves to sing, and also set expectations for the way you work. You know, are you an intense director? Are you that director that says things and just thinks about them later? Because, I mean, I've been that kind of director before, pretty harsh. So, you know, when you are already directing them, they don't get surprised at, oh, where did that come from? Why is he being so mean right now? I thought we were gonna go this way. So they're not confused. Communicate your vision for the story as clearly and explicitly as possible, okay? Always show up prepared, lead by example, okay? You should have mastered the script, paid attention to the smallest details, not only to the dialogue, but also to the acting directions, the cues, the beats, the stage direction, so forth. And then you want to respect the artistry of your actors and crew, encourage them to contribute and collaborate. So quick application for this is when you're having a run through or a read through, let everyone finish reading through first, or finish with a scene before you give your notes, because if you interrupt every now and then, they will get, you know, they might get offended, they might resent you, because it's great if you are a director and you've been an actor before, because you know how actors feel. So when we are acting, we are really bearing our souls on stage. We're in a very vulnerable position, and you know, you're pouring your heart out, and then suddenly your director stops you midline and tells you that's terrible what you're doing. It lowers the morale. So you don't want to do that. If you want to give your notes, yes, notes are important. You can be as brutally honest, but give them after the performance. Be flexible, but firm, okay, with your vision for the production. So I remember we were having this read through. Then Isaac, he was playing, what's his name? Havid. So Havid was this playful brother of Belinda, our main character. And he has this really, this unpredictable personality. And the name of Belinda's partner was Joe, and then they were talking about Joe, and suddenly out of nowhere, it was not from the script, Isaac says, Joe Mama, okay? And then we thought that was funny, so we added that to the script, but had it been a dramatic moment, I wouldn't have let that, but it was a light comedic scene, so that was welcome. So just have that clear vision, so in case somebody suggests something, you know, you're still the director, so you have to be firm with what you want. However, be open and flexible, okay? So do not be afraid to take risks and prepare for the possibility of last minute changes. It happens. I remember backstage, the first night, Emmy was having trouble with her dress. It was too tight. So Alex was helping her zip it up, and it was so hard. And then I just had to step in and zip it up like that. I don't know what came over me, but I just had the strength to zip up a very tight dress. And the second night, it could not zip. I don't know why, you know? We mustered all the strength we could, you know, 3 people will help, we're helping Emmy already. So, you know, and she's gonna be on in 10 seconds. So I was like, last minute, okay, put on a blazer. So that was her, so she was actually, and that was a dance scene that she was gonna get into, a romantic dance scene. So she was dancing actually with a blazer on, but the back of her dress was open. So nobody knows that, the audience doesn't know that because that happens backstage. Yeah, plan for worst case scenarios. I remember there was supposed to be, it was supposed to be a live Jarabe Tapatio dance. We were gonna have that somewhere as an intermission early in the play, but our dancer got injured last minute. So we had to pull a clip from like public archives of people dancing Jarabe Tapatio and get permission to use that. So, oh my gosh, that was such a rush of nerves and adrenaline when we had to do that. But yeah, think about, prepare for the unexpected, okay? And keep morale high always, okay? Yes, I agree with Kevin. If you can't make it to rehearsal, let everybody know so they can plan ahead or maybe use the understudy. Yes, and keep morale high always. It's difficult to come up with a play, and sometimes as the director, as the leader, you do get discouraged. You know, like, is this still gonna work? I remember there was one time that there was a scare in one of our actors' homes. His family, I think, got COVID, and he was afraid to come to rehearsal because of that. So we were really praying, crossing our fingers that he would test negative, because this was still the pandemic. So we had to test every time before we come to rehearsal. So yeah, so that always kept me, you know, at the edge. But you just gotta keep positive at all times, smile, and keep the morale high. You know, you're the leader and they can't see you crumble. You can be honest with your emotions and your expectations, but you are the leader of this ship. You're the captain of the ship. So you have to have mental and physical fortitude to carry on. Okay, so for those who are not going to be directing, from a director's point of view, how do you help your director? Okay, learn your lines. Learn the lines, please. Make sure you have it down to the last comma, semicolon, M dash, whatever, that you know your lines, and not only the dialogue per se, but if it's accompanied by an acting direction, if it's accompanied by a stage direction, that you know what to do while delivering the lines, okay? Listen to the director, listen, show up prepared, okay? So come to rehearsal with a solid understanding of the characters you're playing, you internalize. So you've heard Patricia, you've heard Kevin, they research their characters before they come to rehearsal. Kevin had to talk to her grandmother so he could play an abuela well. Patricia had to watch Daniela from Cadenang Ginto to know how it is to be a contravida, or in Spanish, contravida. So you know, you gotta know who you're playing. And then also, even if you're just getting a minor role, even if it's not your scene, read the script from start to finish. Even if you just have like 2 lines, or yeah, if you don't appear in another scene, because you never know, the other characters might be thinking about you, might be talking about you in that scene. So it helps you set yourself up in that world, how you're going to react to people, you know, because acting is reacting, right? And then if you have suggestions, opinions that you want to give your director, maybe after the rehearsal, maybe after the run through, but when you do so, communicate them respectfully, because you know it's hard to carry that weight for the director. And then whatever you do, whether you're acting, you're dancing, you're singing, please do it well. Okay. Patricia had dance scenes. Kevin had dance scenes. I didn't help them with their dance scenes. I cannot dance to save my life. Okay. But they were working with their choreographer, and they were getting feedback from other dancers in the group. And they would even devote time outside of our main rehearsals to learn their dances. And I really appreciated them for it. Okay. If you're singing, make sure you're singing on key, your phrasing is right. Okay. Some actors who have the resources, or some productions with the resources, they work with vocal coaches before coming on a show. Okay. And anyway, I think I've already said a lot of things, but if anything, and the rest of it is just enjoy the process. It's a creative process. It's pouring out your soul. It's building art. So enjoy it, you know, sublimate your ego, and make it a cathartic experience. Make it an extension of who you are as an individual. And yeah, don't be afraid to take risks, because, you know, nothing can be done until you take the first step. Okay.